Welcome, and thank you for joining us virtually today amid social distancing to hear from some amazing women. Brittany Puerto, Carolina Hellal of Chic Talk CH, and Francesca Felix-Smith of Frank Vinyl. We hope that you and your loved ones are healthy, and we thank you for staying home with us and tuning in. My name is Jacqueline Mittman, and I'm the Director of Multi-Channel Influencer Engagement on the Influencer Development Team here at Reward Style. And Like to Know It is partnering with their community to recruit and continue expanding their network of influencers, tastemakers, creators, and stylists. Brittany, Carolina, and Francesca, as our Latina Community Panel, are all here this evening to share their unique stories with you and inspire you to turn your influencing into a viable career. So during the panel, please feel free to submit any questions you may have via the Q&A function, as we will be able to answer a few questions live at the end. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Brittany, Carolina, and Francesca.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
All right, so first question we'll dive into is, tell me about your backgrounds and how you got into the influencer space. So what were each of you doing when you first became content creators? And we'll start with Brittany.
So I was born and raised in Honduras. I moved to the US for college and then to Houston for a job. During my college years, I started following Emily from the Sweetest Thing blog and Caitlin from Southern Curls and Pearls. And I absolutely love what they did with their platforms. And me being in a new city, I didn't know many people, but my shopping habits were still the same, which just means I had a lot of clothes and nowhere to wear them. So I decided to start a blog.
Yeah, that's great. And blogging and influencing is always such a great way to meet new people, especially when you're in a new city too.
Definitely.
Carolina.
So thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so I was born and raised in Colombia. My mom moved to Denver almost 20 years ago. And at the time I was in high school. After graduating high school, I moved to Denver. But for many years, I was back and forth between Denver and Colombia. And it was until 2010, when I finally graduated from fashion school in Bogota, that I finally made the decision to move to Denver and live here indefinitely. Right after that, I started working as a visual merchandiser and for a juniors clothing store. And I was part of their expansion team, and I had to travel a lot to open stores nationwide. It was a really fun job because I was surrounded by clothes all day long. And I worked with them for almost 3 years. And at the time I discovered fashion blogs. That's when I finally discovered like the Blonde Salad, Nanny's Closet, and inspired by them because I love what they were doing. I decided to start my own as an extra creative outlet. And later that year, I had to leave the company because they closed all of their locations here in Denver. And I decided just to like find part-time job so I could still work on my blog, and that's how I continue doing things. And I always knew, this is like what I wanted to do, and it was very passion driven at the beginning. And my mom and stepdad used to take all of my photos, and I was just mainly, sharing my outfits and personal style.
Yeah, that's so great that you can make it almost like a family event and get everyone involved. I think that's so important because a lot of people think you have to go out and hire a professional photographer, but really there's family around you and people you can always utilize just to get that started. So it's so cool to hear.
Yeah.
And Francesca.
So I am San Diego, born and raised. My family is from Mexico. And I was actually in college studying graphic design, and I also studied fashion design and fashion marketing. And then I ended up working as a photographer and doing graphic design after school, working for a bunch of graphic design interning actually. I wasn't working for them. And then I was doing a bunch of other jobs, and then I started this blog on the side. And it was just a hobby and a place where I could just have a creative outlet, document my outfits at first. And I thought it could possibly be a good portfolio to show to any graphic designers or fashion firms. And in the end, I just ended up finding something I was like super passionate about, and I had built a following. So I just stuck to it and decided to do that instead.
That's great. And at least you're able to apply that experience and be able to throw it into this blog. I think that's really what helps your success and everything you're doing. You're combining two passions in one, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's been helpful for sure.
All right, so second question, and we'll do this as like a two-part question. So part one, we're gonna ask Carolina and Francesca to answer. And I understand that you are both full-time content creators. Can you tell us when and how each of your influencer businesses went from being a creative outlet to a viable career? And we'll start with Carolina.
Okay, so I think after blogging for almost 2 years, brands started to reach out to me to exchange their products for content on either my blog or social media channels. And I was just very excited. Like, I couldn't believe that was happening at the time. It was just, everything was just so new, and it was very, like, I don't know, exciting just to like get all this product from them and get to know all of these brands. And it was almost until 3 years of blogging that I was finally able to start monetizing my content and opening an Instagram account. And I believe that was in 2015 when I opened my account, that it really helped, you know, get my content out there and people, for brands and people to start really noticing my work, like what I was doing. And that made me realize that what I was doing could be a viable career. And I started just posting content very consistently and every single day, from 2 to 3 times a day. And I don't know, I loved it. And I got to grow my audience to almost 10K after maybe like 2 years. And that's when I grew my following to that amount of to 10K, that's when I finally started working with brands almost monthly. And that made a huge difference. And that's when I, you know, finally made the decision to start doing this as a full-time job.
That's really great. And you mentioned something so key too, which is that consistency and posting, you know, multiple times on platforms and just really being consistent with that, because it takes time to grow up those, you know, to grow following and grow everything within your business. So being consistent really allows you to kind of get there over time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wasn't taking breaks. I was just like posting every day because I loved it so much. It was just so fun at the beginning that I was just doing it every day.
Yeah, passion is necessary for sure. And Francesca?
So for me, yeah, I was blogging for a long time. So, but I would say from the time that I decided that I wanted to make a business to the time that it actually started to become a reality, it was about probably 2 years. I decided to, the moment I was making enough income to leave my other side jobs was when it was like super real. I did a lot of free work and collaborating with brands that I loved, so I could build a relationship with them. So that was super helpful. And eventually a lot of those relationships, after like years of working for free and doing a lot of just exchange of free work for exposure, then they started to turn into paid gigs. I also started using Like to Know It to help monetize a lot. So that was super helpful because I ended up getting a lot of commission from like referrals or things I'd wear. I'd be able to just like post the clothes and make a little bit of side money off of that. And once I was able to support myself with the blog, I was finally getting enough collaborations that I really didn't have enough time to do anything else. That's when I knew that like I reached my goal and I could really just leave everything else. And it was finally like an actual career.
That's really great. Yeah, and at least Like to Know It too, it makes it sort of like that efficient, easy way to just say, this is where I monetize everything, super easy to shop, and it sort of like does the work. You tag everything, does the work for you, people can shop it over time, and then you can focus on your other content too, which is great.
Yeah, it's a good like overnight kind of thing where you're just sleeping and the money can kind of slowly trickle in and eventually adds up. So it's nice.
Absolutely. All right, and then I mentioned it was a two-part question, so we'll have Brittany answer the second question. And I wanted to say, in addition to content creating as a side hustle, you are still working a full-time job. So how do you find balance between your part-time passion and your full-time career?
So when I got around 50K, I realized that it could be my career. I reviewed my earnings and my growth rate to estimate when I could go full-time with content creating. And I haven't done it just because I have a few goals that I want to reach before doing so. My full-time job is in procurement. So to balance both, I schedule out my days and I try to create as much content during the weekends. And then, so Sundays are the days that I take all my pictures, and then I only have to worry about posting during the week. So that's kind of how I balance both.
Yeah, and it's definitely a balance. And that's so great that you're able to find that time to sort of get things done on specific days. So that way you have, you know, maybe one day out of the weekend to be able to have fun, but still one day that you're working. And so it's great that you've been able to find that balance. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yes.
All right, so next question. So tell us, what is a typical, I know we were just kind of talking about this, but what does a typical week look like for each of you? And Brittany, I'll let you kind of continue on what you were talking about.
Yes, so Monday to Friday, I work my 8 to 5, and then after 5, I go and work on my blog, Instagram, finding sales, ordering items, etc. And like I mentioned, I take my pictures on Sundays, and then I just post throughout the week. That's been my schedule for a while and what has worked the best for me.
Yeah, it's almost like batching. So you sort of like take everything, you know, get everything ready, and then you schedule everything out throughout the week. So really being proactive in it. It's almost key to your own sanity, right?
Yes, very helpful.
And Carolina?
So weekends are usually the days my husband and I take all the photos. So Monday through Friday, I can just really focus on like creating content, posting content, answering emails, ordering like all of the clothes and new products I'm gonna use for the photo shoots, and plan like all of my content for like the rest of the week. And in the mornings, like mornings are key because that's when, like, as soon as I wake up, I usually try to post on the Like to Know It app because that's where I post the most. And then after that, I just try to spend time with my daughter and try to, find that balance between work and my personal life. And I try to do things based on like priority.
Yeah, I definitely have to prioritize that. And obviously it's so important that you're spending time with your daughter and balancing everything, but it's great that you'll be able to find that kind of that perfect schedule that works for you.
Yeah.
And Francesca?
So for me, my work days are pretty busy. On top of having my blog, I just started a home decor business, and I'm actually working on a course also. So there's been a lot going on, and I've been trying to stick to a 9-to-5 schedule just to keep me on track. Every week's a bit different. It's a bit of a mix between shooting content marketing, learning on how to market a home decor business, staying active on Instagram with engagement, uploading links to Like to Know It, answering DMs, brainstorming content, reaching out to brands. So some days I like to split it where I'll do half Frank Vinyl stuff and then half like my business and then half my other thing. And then other days I like to do batching. So I'll do like photo shoots on one day and then answering emails, marketing stuff on another day. So, I mean, it's kind of all over the place, but it's like organized chaos right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned batching again. It's really, that's always such a key to like getting things done because you're allowed to stay in that mindset, get everything done that you need to. And that's really the key to sort of like scheduling everything out and finding that balance too.
Yeah, I've learned that when batching, like it just helps to keep your mind in one space, especially like us creators, we're doing so many different things that if you're bouncing from one to the next, your brain can't fully focus. And so that's something I've been working on, just understanding that you really should focus on one thing for like more than 2 hours and then move to something else. It's super helpful.
Yeah, that's actually great advice. All right, so next question. Like to Know It was created to both help you power your influencer business and provide consumers the answers to the question they're always asking, which is, where did you get that? So how has Like to Know It helped you become the influencer you are today? And I'll let Brittany start.
Yes, so kind of going back to my previous response about realizing when I could make this my career around 50K, I was actually Like to Know It that gave me the confidence to do so. Around that time, Like to Know It reached out to work with me for a few months to help boost my earnings. I believe we had calls every other week to look at my analytics and help with identifying what was working, what was not working, what I should post more. All that kind of stuff. And then I'm so grateful that I had that because that is really what helped me get to the next level. And I still use all of that information to this day.
That's great. Yeah, that's one thing we always like to provide. And for those of you who aren't influencers yet or going to try and be on the platform, or some of you already are on the Reward Sound Like to Know It platform, that's something that we do provide is services to be able to help you grow your business. So we're always here for questions. You can email us. Our team is here to really help you grow your influencer business and monetize your content, growing your earnings over time. So we definitely always want to see you succeed. So that's something you can always do. And we're always excited to kind of help you out however we can. And Carolina?
So I will say that Like to Know It has definitely influenced my work and the vision of my business tremendously. It has not only helped me grow my audience, but it has also opened many doors for me. Thanks to Like to Know It, I've been able to take the monetization of my content to the next level, because there's so much picture taken, and sometimes, you know, like you just post to your blog and Instagram and other social media channels. But the good thing about Like to Know It is that you can post multiple times throughout the day. And when I learned that, you know, I realized the potential that I had with the content I was already creating. And that's something that I learned from the Like to Know It team. So it's been amazing. They have also given me the opportunity to maximize the use of the content, like I just said, and growing an audience in the Like to Know It app that has one same interest, which is shopping. You know, people go there to shop, and that's why it's been amazing to work with them, because I've been able to just make the most out of the content I create for my blog. And they have also taught me, I have also learned through Like to Know It that strategy is key. If I, you know, like I need to, over the last year, I've learned that planning my content with time in advance is the key to absolutely everything. And thanks to that, I've been able to grow my audience. And that's actually an audience that I never thought I could have, you know, and they're there, and I try to be very consistent with my content, and that has helped me not only grow my audience, but just grow my business in a way that I never thought I could. So that's why my Like to Know It audience plays a huge role in my career as an influencer today, and I'm very, very grateful for it.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it, but it's true. Like to Know It really has a very dedicated audience that's specifically there to shop. So it's so much different than any other platform you're on, because everything else is more social platform based and building that community. But the Like to Know It app is really specifically there for people to shop. So it makes it much easier to be able to put your content out there in front of people that are actively looking to buy those items. So it's a great way to grow your business, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Francesca?
So for me, Like to Know It has just been made things so much easier to be able to share things with my audience. I'm just always getting asked like where things are, where they're from, and it just makes it easy. It's all in one place. All I have to do is direct them either to Like to Know It app, or just share the link that I've already cultivated through Like to Know It. So that's been really awesome. And something people don't know also about Like to Know It is that it's a really good shopping platform. So like if you want to know where you can find like white tennis shoes with a red stripe, it's such a random example, but like you could just write that and all the girls wearing different white shoes with red stripes will come up. And I think that's a really cool thing, just to share that piece of knowledge. A lot of people don't know that. And I've actually shared that with a lot of like family members and friends, and they're just like, oh my God, I had no idea, like this changes it. So that's been cool. And then Like to Know It has also really helped promote me like on their Like to Know It page, or even just through the app. So that's been really cool, and like meeting a whole other audience through that. And it's just brought me a lot of new followers, and there are people that are willing to shop what I'm wearing. And I really love that Like to Know It has a really cool analytics page. Like it's super in depth from my side, so I can really see where my audience is going to, what links they're clicking on, what they're resonating with, what they're liking to see from me, and what they're purchasing. So for me, that's really helpful to know what I should be posting more, and giving my audience what they want. So overall, I just think it's been a big help in getting me to the next level.
Yeah, that's really great. And you touched on something really big, which is the analytics part. And analytics really plays such a huge role in being an influencer, because it's really guiding your business strategies and your overall content planning. So you're putting content out there that you know people are going to shop and that they're looking for, and it really tells you kind of what's working and what's not working. So as a busy influencer, you're sort of able to plan out content that you know is going to perform well. So it's really all about those analytics, and we definitely try and put that out there and make it easy to understand and read, so you always know what's going on with your business.
It's also really cool because if like a brand comes to you and asks you, you know, what sells, or do you think our pieces will do well with you, instead of just jumping on board and saying yes to the brand and not really knowing if it'll perform well, the analytics can also help as a way to show the brands like, oh, look, this is what I sell, and this is how much people are buying from me. And like, so that just helps you with being more professional too, and having the analytics there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Data is always important.
Yeah.
And besides the analytics, I don't think we've mentioned, but you also have, and I'm blanking on the name, is it applications, but it's like Shop the Post, the lookbook, the
Oh, the
money.
widgets.
Yes, the
widget,
widget.
yeah.
Those are really helpful tools for like creating content.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who aren't on the platform, if you have a blogging platform, if you're on like WordPress or Squarespace or Blogger or anything, we do have widgets that make it really easy to generate shoppable widgets that have your links embedded in them. So that way you're able to earn commission on anything that you're selling or promoting to your audiences. So we definitely have a whole bunch of widgets that you can use. We have the like to know it widget, makes it really easy to add to your website. So we definitely provide all those tools for you to be able to further monetize your business and all your platforms. It's a great point. All right, so we'll dive into the next question. So when you think back to when you were first starting out, what was the biggest challenge you faced and how did you overcome it? Brittany, I'll start with you.
My biggest challenge was photography. When I graduated, I asked for a Canon T3i and I had no idea how to use it. So I had to watch a lot of tutorials. I also asked other bloggers for their photography tips. And from then I kind of did just trial and error.
Yeah, and really everything with the influencer industry is trial and error. So you kind of, it's, you know, photography is a difficult thing to learn, but you can't learn until you start doing it. And that kind of has to do with everything as far as like being an influencer. You just have to do it and go for it and you'll learn along the way. You're going to have a lot of trial and errors, kind of like what you mentioned, but you sort of just have to go right into it to learn it.
Definitely. And I think back then the norm was to like use professional camera, but nowadays your iPhone, it's just as good. It makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah, and a lot of them are better than cameras nowadays too. So it just makes it so much easier. It's in your pocket, ready to go. Makes content creation much easier and faster.
Yes.
And Carolina?
If we go back to like the very, very beginning when I opened my blog and everything, I will say that coding was the hardest part of like everything, because I remember I used to have such a hard time using Blogger. That was the platform I used at the time when I created my blog, and I just found it so hard to, you know, just use all those codes, and it's just not for me. You know, I'm not good at that, and I've had a really hard time just trying to make my website look certain way. And that's when I started hearing all these great things about WordPress, and I decided to transfer all of my, you know, information to WordPress, because they just give you so much freedom to create like the website of your dreams. And that's when I just decided to hire a graphic designer, and that person helped me, you know, bring to life the idea that I had in mind, and that's how I solved the problem.
But give yourself a pat on the back, because coding is a very difficult thing to learn, especially when you're sort of just teaching yourself on the go, like how to do this. And again, trial and error. You started it, you started on Blogger, but then you realized it just didn't work for you and you moved to something else. And that's what it's really about, is growing and learning kind of throughout this process.
Yeah, I remember playing with just the codes and everything, and multiple times, maybe like more than 5 times, I remember freaking out because my website was just either gone or it was down, nothing was there, everything was like all over the place. So it's just really hard, you know. And at that point, that's when, I mean, you have to make the decision. You have to hire someone who can do that for you. So you don't have to do it all.
That's true. That's a good point. Anything technical, things are bound to go wrong. So it's good that you're able to find those resources to be able to help you out, so you're not stuck just doing it by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And Francesca?
So going off what Caroline was saying, I definitely think coding and website stuff was like a huge thing. I spent way too much time trying to make my website look how I wanted it to look, and I think it took away a lot from creating the right content, and I think the content is actually more important than the website. So that was a huge issue for me for years. I think it held me back, actually. And then on top of that, I think the biggest challenge was being taken seriously by brands, and like knowing how to shift from working for free with them and building that relationship to finally getting paid. And just like I mentioned above, eventually I did get paid. It just took a lot of showing them my work, showing what I could do, showing that I could be professional, you know, tagging them a lot for free, showing that I was actually like a big fan of these brands that I wanted to work with, and not just like straight up from the beginning asking for payment before even showing what I could do. And I think it was also eventually, if I found the right platform, like the middleman that would connect the brands to the influencers, that was super helpful in finally getting more paid gigs on a consistent basis. So there's a lot of, for anybody that's new out there, there's a lot of websites that will connect the influencer to the brand, and it's basically like a manager that'll manage the collaboration for you and bring you guys together, and then the brand can say yes or no and the influencer can say yes or no. So that's been really helpful, and that's something that Like to Know It has actually really helped me with too, because they also do collaborations, and I've just worked with some awesome brands I never thought I'd be able to work with through Like to Know It and through all of these other platforms. So yeah, that was helpful. And what's the word? A breakthrough.
Yeah, and it's great too, because within our sort of like ecosystem, within Like to Know It and Reward Style, when you're using these platforms, you have these analytics and this data that the brands that we work with are wanting to work with you, because they can actually see, oh, this person is doing really well. And so we have our brand partnerships team that work with you as an influencer to really look at your data, analyze it, and just say, hey, these are the influencers that are performing well for your brand or certain products. And so it makes it much easier to sort of keep everything within that ecosystem and just easily refer you to these brands with just straight data that to prove that. So it's really great just to be able to kind of leverage you as an influencer and your business in front of these brands without having to go through so many different workarounds. So definitely makes a huge difference.
Yeah. It was also on top of like working with the brands and having a middleman that like a websites or somebody that's in between is so helpful, because like I'm kind of an introvert, even though you wouldn't think so, because like, and I think most of us are actually, that's why we're behind screens, but like I'm an introvert and I don't like having to talk directly with brands. Sometimes I get nervous. I don't want to be mean, and it's hard to say like, no, I should be paid more, or like, I don't want to do that. Or so it's really awesome to just have like that middle ground person, so everything's kind of taken care of. So that was a huge challenge for me too in the beginning, just understanding how to talk to brands and just know your worth and all that too.
Yeah, I think I want to add something else to what Francesca is saying, is that the negotiation part was very intimidating for me at the beginning too. You know, like it was very hard to like figure out how much should I be paid for you know, a gig or the certain deliverables, and it was all just very new. And in my case, having, you know, a community of other bloggers that I could go and ask, you know, hey guys, like, what are you doing? How much do you think, you know, I should be paid for this? Like, it really helped just having more, you know, blogger friends that were doing the same thing, just to like help me figure out the same things we were all going through.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Relying on that kind of community aspect and really kind of talking to other influencers allows you to kind of get everyone else's perspective and find out what works. And that's great. And you're able to meet new people, which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll jump into the next question. So what advice would you give to someone interested in turning their love for storytelling and content creation into a successful business, brand, and career? Is there anything you wish you had known when you first started out? And we'll start with Brittany.
Is it my turn? It's kind of breaking up.
Uh-oh, sorry.
It's like, oh my goodness. Well, first and foremost, focus on creating quality content, content that you're really proud of. People will see that, and then the followers and the earnings will come. I wish I would have paid more attention to my analytics from the start. It'll help you accelerate overall growth from the very get-go.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know we mentioned analytics a minute ago, but really analytics are so important because it allows you to drive your business and make educated decisions, which is really, really important to grow that business. That's a great point. And a lot of people overlook that when they're first starting out. I don't think, you know, that's just you. It's just something that when you first start, you know, doing and influencing as a, whether it's a passion hobby or as a career, it's something not a lot of people pay attention to. But if you can start learning that now and paying attention to it early on, it really allows you to drive that business. So analytics are really key to the success. And Carolina?
My gosh, I have so many things to say here. I will say that from day one, just make sure that you absolutely love what you do. Over the years, things evolve and change, but at the end of the day, passion is for what we do is what, you know, keeps us moving forward. So just make sure that you really love what you know, are gonna start doing. Be patient. Things don't happen overnight. You're not gonna, you know, I mean, it happens for some people, but in my case, you know, my growth and how my business has, you know, like grow all over the years has been a complete different process from, you know, other bloggers. So just be very, very patient, because, and just consistency is key to, you know, like seeing success. And just like I said, success doesn't look the same for every single person, and the comparing games comes and goes. But and sometimes it really, you know, it gets the best of us, especially if we're not having a good day. But we just need to learn that you know, looks different for every single person. Just, you know, focus on what you're doing and keep moving forward. And you know, going back to one of the questions from the beginning, you don't need to do it all. Like from day one, you can expand your team. You can hire people to do things that, you know, you don't know how to do. In my case, I have someone who helps me with my Pinterest account, because I just, you know, I know that there's a lot of potential with Pinterest, and I just don't know how to do those things. So I did some research, and I found a person that, you know, is helping me with that right now. And it's just, it's fine, you know, to expand your team from day one, and have, that's, I mean, in the long run, that's gonna help you grow faster too, if you start, you know, expanding your team from the very beginning, if you can afford it. And creating a working schedule and just be organized, because I feel like one of my biggest problems from day one has been overworking, and that comes, I mean, because I love what I do, but I during the past 2 years, I feel like I've been working more than I have to, and I just kind of like forgot about myself. And being a creative, you really have to take breaks. You really have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that your mind is, you know, well rested, and you're taking time to just, you know, wind down and think about what you want to do next. Because, you know, if you are tired all the time, creativity is not going to come. At least in my case, you know, I need to be in a good mood, and I need to be just well rested to be able to create. So just be organized with your time, and so you don't burn out.
Yeah, these are all incredible points, and you're right. I mean, self-care really is important. You have to take care of yourself, because especially when you're passionate about something, sometimes the lines are blurred as far as like what's fun and what's work, and so it can get a little confusing there. But you really kind of owe it to yourself to take breaks, like you said, and turn off, almost creating like office hours for yourself. Even if you're doing this on top of a full-time job, maybe just setting dedicated days or dedicated time blocks where that's where you're doing it, just to make sure that, one, you're being productive during that time, but also you're taking care of yourself and just not staying up till like 3 a.m. every night, basically, because it's surprisingly easy to do, right?
Yeah, and you know, after I became a mom, that became harder. So now I have to be like even more careful about, you know, like how I'm spending my time and how I'm prioritizing everything that I have to do. And that's why I highlighted that part, you know, in that previous question you asked, because if I don't do that, I literally just do nothing. Like the day is gone, and then I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything. So just being organized, you know, is super important.
Yeah, great point. And Francesca?
So going off like all that Carolina was saying right now with that last point, I think it reminded me of when I was younger. I mean, I started doing this like 10 years ago. And I remember when I started, I just thought, because I would see all the like OG first generation bloggers, and I really thought it was like super easy. It's like, oh, they're just taking their photo, they're living their life, they're having fun, like uploading stuff, and they have a following, cool. And so I didn't realize that you really do have to treat it like a job and like a business. And I'm saying this for anybody, if anybody out there is young, like it really is a business, and you have to separate it from your everyday life. I would go out on like dates with my boyfriend at the time, who's not my husband. And like, I'd be like, oh, okay, let's take photos of me. And that would take up a lot of time out of our date, taking away from like being present. So yeah, that's a huge point. Just like make sure you're organizing and separating your life, and realize that like it's not the same as your life. It's okay to document moments of your life, just make sure you're separating it. That's like super important. And then on top of that, I would say, I mean, aside from that, I would say persistence and consistency is super important. So just stay consistent, keep a schedule, keep posting, be persistent in all aspects, like just pushing forward, reaching out to brands, just keep trying. It takes a while to get started, but if you love it and you stay on track, then it's totally possible. Another thing that I would say would be to just always make sure that you're saving. So this part is something that you guys probably hear all the time, and it's because it's super important. So I'm sorry I'm repeating it, but it's like super, super important, which is why you guys hear it all the time. So it's always make sure that everything that you're putting out is information that is either educational, inspirational, or entertaining. And if it's not, then you probably shouldn't be posting it out. Everything that you're giving out to the world, your readers or followers or whoever should be getting something from it. So don't just post just to post. Doing that will help you really stand out from like the sea and crowds of other people trying to do what you're doing. And it'll help you use like your unique self and give any information that you have or knowledge that you have that makes you unique to the rest of the world.
Exactly. Good point.
Yeah, it's really so important, and you really touched on that as far as like your uniqueness and like leaning into that uniqueness and what makes you you, because everybody has something to offer. And so it's really kind of like starting to hone in on what it is that you can offer that's different than what everyone else is doing. And sometimes it's just being yourself. It's really just leaning into whatever it is that you're doing. And you mentioned this in one of the other answers, but as far as like not comparing yourself, Carolina, I think you mentioned this. It's like really not doing the comparison game, just staying true to yourself, being that unique person that you are, and then just being able to put out their content that is guaranteed to be different than what everyone else is doing because it's unique to you. It's you. So I think that's so important to be able to recognize that. And I think sometimes, especially when you're first starting out as an influencer, for any of you that are new to the influencer business, it can seem like there's already a lot of people doing it, and there are, but the reason why it continues to work and why this industry is so huge is because everyone has something different to offer. And so I think it's really important to remember that and own it, own your uniqueness and what it is that you have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that kind of ties into the next question, but really influencing is about representation of your community and sharing who you are and what your interests are, inspiring and educating the people in your network and beyond. So as individuals with influence, is there anything you've learned or reflected upon over the last few weeks that you'd like to share with your communities and those who have tuned in tonight to hear from you? And we'll start with Brittany.
Lots of learning this month. I've learned that I need to be more vocal about who I am, where I come from, what I believe in, celebrate diversity. I can't tell you how many times I get asked, oh, I didn't know you were Honduran. So I need to be better at that. And overall, I want to be more open with my community and to continue to have those conversations with everyone to keep up the momentum that we have right now so that we can all be the change that we want to see in the world.
Great. That's a great response. And really, it's like you said, it's celebrating that diversity and just being true to who you are, because there are a lot of people that are looking for that representation and can see themselves in you. So it's really great to be able to, find that when they open up an app, whether it's a like to know an app to shop or Instagram, it's so important to be able to see that. So it's a really great point.
Yeah.
And Francesca?
So I think it's definitely important to speak, like she said, to who you are and just like speak up about that and not be ashamed of it. So for me, I'm a Latina and I'm really proud of it, but I wasn't always like that. When I was younger, I feel like I really wanted to be like, I went to an all white school and I just wanted to be like all the white little girls. And I wanted my name to be Becky and like change my name and everything. My mom was like, no, you're unique. I'm not changing your name. And now I'm really obviously thankful for it. And I love who I am. And I realized that like, I've got something different to share. And I think it's important to share the successes I've had as a Latina in this influencer space. And I hope that it helps influence other Latina or Latinx people, as well as continue to represent brands that are also from the Latinx community. And reflecting on this past month, I've really come to realize that as a Latina, I need to be a better ally to the POC community. I was so focused on promoting my own roots as a Mexican that I kind of forgot, to be completely honest, that there's other people of color that also need help being seen and heard. And I think we can do better by helping these communities and pushing these brands to work in brands that we work with to have more diversity in their campaigns, to work with more influencers that are of all different ethnicities. And I think now is the time that we can really let our voices be heard, and we should all really be proud of who we are and inspire others and uplift others to also feel the same way. And I think we can really create lasting change by doing this.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point, actually, and really recognizing too that this platform that you have to be able to use that voice and be able to, be that representation and encourage others to sort of not only use their pride within their own ethnicity, but to be able to promote other people of color and really just, like you said, be an ally. So it's really great points that you made. And Carolina?
I will say that the last weeks have been so awakening. I've definitely learned that when things need to be said, we really need to be very vocal and speak up. I'm from Colombia, and as a Latina in this country, I'm very proud of my roots and where I come from. But and even though I've been living here for many years, there are many things I still need to learn and understand about the country, about the system, about how things have been done, for so many years. And now more than ever, I feel a huge responsibility to educate myself and just, learn more about the history and how things have happened, because I need to give that knowledge to my daughter. Now that I'm a mom, I think so much about her and how, all of these changes we want to make are really going to make an impact on her. And I just want to make sure that I give her the knowledge and the tools she's going to need to bring those lasting changes in the, in the near future. We really need to think about those future generations, and education is key. And as immigrants, who came to this country looking for better opportunities, we cannot forget that we also have to give back to the country that's, that has given us so much. And what a better way, to do it than raising a generation of game changers. So that's some of the things that I've been learning during the past weeks.
Yeah, that's incredible. And just being able to teach your daughter those things, and then even sharing with your audiences, and like you said, education is just really so important, and being able to do that and even sharing with your audience the things that maybe you're talking to your daughter about, or maybe things that you're reading to her. I mean, all those things are really great. And again, just having the opportunity to be able to have that platform to share that with different audiences is really incredible. And really, thank you all for using your voices and speaking from your hearts and sharing your learnings with each and every one of us. It's so important that we continue having these conversations, really, so that we can all do better and create meaningful change together. So on that note, we want everyone tuning in for our panel, from this panel event, I should say, to apply to become an influencer if you haven't done so already. So you too can embrace and influence your communities. And can you tell us, kind of your audience and followers that would maybe apply to Reward Style, can you tell us how this helps your hopes of growing the Latina community, and why it is, I should say Latina influencer community, and why it is more important than ever before? We'll start with Brittany.
Yes, we need more of us. This space is lacking Latinas, which gives us the ability to fill that gap and take advantage of untapped potential. I hope that if you've been thinking about starting content creating and applying to Reward Style, my story, our stories have given you that last little nudge to go ahead and apply.
Yeah, that's really great. And it's so important, like we talked about too, to have that representation, because there are shoppers out there that are looking for that representation. They want to be able to see themselves in the people that they're shopping from. And so we always want to be able to have more and more people within the community and the influencer community just being out there to represent. So that way because when you look at it just as consumers and shoppers and people in general, it's everyone. And we really want to be able to have that represented and have someone that they can follow and trust, because obviously if they can see themselves in you, they're going to trust you more. And that's always the kind of audience and connection and community that's always best to have too. And Carolina.
I will say that it helps so much. As a Latina myself, I know how much we can offer. We're so hardworking, passion-driven, and those two things are pretty much all you need to get started. There are so many opportunities out there in the market, and for all influencers. And as Latinas, we get to reach one more culture that right there puts us in a very, very special place. We have the power to influence the Latino community, which is huge in this country, as you guys all know. So there's a tremendous opportunity right there. If this is your dream, if this is what you've been wanting to, to do for a very long time. If you can stop thinking about it, just stop waiting, join the Reward Style family. You won't regret it. And just remember that there's never a perfect time to start. Just get started.
Yeah, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. There's no better time to start than now. And it's really just a matter of just doing it and starting it and taking that plunge and really going for it. And you said too, there's so many opportunities and so many communities and audiences that you can actually reach and that people are looking for. And so that's, like you said, it's just a matter of starting, and easier said than done. Sometimes it's scary to make that first jump, but really if this is something you're passionate about, then all you have to do is start. That's really the key to it.
Yes.
And Francesca?
So I just want the Latina Latinx community to know that they have a place in this influencer space, and there's so many of us, and we can all help each other out. Really, we have a lot to offer. All we need are the right tools. And I think going to your question, like to know, it can really help with just being able to give your audience or your followers what they need, and being able to see the analytics, being able to give back to your community, as in like just, you know, helping them make it easier for them. And it's there was a third point I was going to say. Easy way to, like, if you're working with brands, just be able to have, you know, look more professional. And in the end, I think it just helps you also, it helps you just get to the next step in professionalism.
Yes.
In a way.
So true.
Yeah, being professional really is so important, to be able to show that professionalism and having, you know, the content and how you are talking to brands and how you're, you know, even talking to your community and other audiences too. It's just a matter of that professionalism that you said. And so having those right tools really does make a difference and sort of making it easier to be able to carry your business in that professional level. So thank you so much to each of you for sharing your unique stories about becoming an influencer and how you use your influence in not only the Latina community, but beyond. And I think we can all agree, with more influencers joining the community, the more opportunity to reach, connect, and inspire one another. So we want to open it up, like you said, that we are opening up questions. So we'll go ahead, we see the questions coming in, so we'll go ahead and jump into those. And as we're talking through this, if you have more questions, please feel free to hit that Q&A button and submit anything. So we'll go ahead and get started. And the first question says, what is the recipe to growing your following? I've been struggling to grow mine, and brands don't seem to want to work with anyone who isn't at a certain level, so to speak. I'll let someone take that.
Okay, so I think what I would say my advice would be, I mean, it is very hard to grow right now, but it's not impossible. I've seen girls just skyrocket and grow overnight because they're doing it right, and they might have found something that works for them. Definitely don't, like we've kind of mentioned in this a little bit, don't do what other people are doing. Just because like you see somebody growing, don't copy them and be like, okay, that's working for them, because it might not work for you. It's working for them because it's who they are, and they're being super authentic to that. I would say focus instead on, like we mentioned earlier, inspirational, educational content that will give something back to your following, and focus on the community that you already have. Instead of trying to grow, just focus on making your own community stronger, build those relationships, answer those DMs, become friends with these people. You'll find out, I've made so many friends on Instagram just from like engaging in DMs and stuff. You know, I end up actually knowing these people and becoming friends with them. And then you start to know who they are, why they're coming to you, what they want. And in the end, they're going to talk to other people about you. They're going to repost you. It's going to be way stronger. And brands are now starting to learn. It's kind of taken a while, but they're starting to learn that it's not so much about the numbers. It's actually about the engagement. And it's only going to get more and more like that as like time goes by. You might have 10K followers, but if you have more engagement than somebody that has 100K followers, you're probably going to get the gig. So just focus on that. Make your community stronger. Don't focus on the numbers. I know it can be kind of like discouraging to see other people grow and have numbers and get the gigs, but if you just focus on the community, I'm pretty positive it'll eventually come back to you tenfold.
Exactly. And I would like to add something to what Francesca is saying, is that we really need to focus on what makes us special. You know, like she said, don't Don't look at what other people are doing. You know, you just really need to focus on what makes you special, the whole reason why you started. You know, like every time I get confused and, you know, like I kind of lose my direction because I've been doing this for so many years and it's happened to me, you know. And I think one of the times when I felt really lost was when I became a mom, because I was like, oh my gosh, like now my content is going to be super lifestyle, and all these people that come to my account, you know, for fashion tips and just seeing outfits, now they're going to start seeing babies, you know, just baby content everywhere. Like, what am I going to do? So I think it's all about, you know, like understanding how your life is evolving. And then as your life evolves, your content will too. And you, believe me, like when you love what you do and you're so passionate about it, you will find a way to make it work, to really understand what your audience wants from you. And they've been following you for a reason, and they will accept those, you know, changes. If your content is going through a big change, they will accept it and they will support you, because why did they start following you? You know, they love you for a reason. So don't forget that. Like when things get confused, just stop, calm down, you know, think about where you want to go, you know, just really taking the time to focus on the content, because the content at the end of the day is what gets out there, and that's what people see. You know, there's so much behind the scenes, and taking the time to like really reevaluate like the content you want to put out there and the direction you want to take, it's super important. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, if you see something that you post something that does really well, analyze what, like, is it a certain pose? Is it what you're wearing? Try to find out what it is that people liked from that, and then repeat. Like, do it as many times as you can. And I think that's what I really found that helped with me. I had like a picture that was with a blue background and I was wearing jeans, and I repeated that every single Friday, and it worked.
Yep.
Awesome.
And if it doesn't work, like if you're finding that like
switch
nothing you're doing is working, then you got to switch it all up. So same as like if something's working, keep doing it. Like if something isn't working and you just keep hitting a wall, figure out what you continue to do and just go the complete opposite direction and see if that changes things up. Like I've switched gears a lot of times throughout this journey, and every time I do, I learn something.
Exactly. Yeah, strategy is key. Like, you know, also the algorithm plays a huge role, you know, in growing. And that's something that I've also learned a lot with the Like Tonight family. They have really taught me how to be a strategic. Like that's super important, because if you want to kind of, you know, like be seen by other people, you know, convert, just bring those numbers and, you know, get more work. You really need to pay attention to what your audience is, what time they're connected, you know, when are they going to have their phones in their hands so they can see the moment when you post. You know, you have to be very smart about it. So like Francesca said before, don't post to post. You know, if you are not ready to post and engage with your audience, because you do have to stay there and, you know, like engage with the comments they're leaving and all, you know, all that, just don't do it, because you're probably going to be wasting, you know, an amazing photo. You spend how many hours editing and, you know, putting the caption together and all that. Like, just be very mindful when, you know, when to post and what to post.
Yeah, you guys just hit on so many great strategy points. Those are all awesome points that you just made. And just kind of like tying into with that, as far as like growing, I can't believe you said the same thing, but really not focusing on that number. It's about engagement, like you said, and engagement is really so important when it comes to that. And even especially with the Like to Know It blog, it's not dependent on how many followers you have. It really has nothing to do with the number of followers you have. Obviously, the more audience you have, the more they're going to see your content. But it's really just about providing exactly what people are looking for and providing that content. And they'll flock to you anyway. It kind of just happens organically. And even though things have changed with different social platforms, the algorithms are different, there's so many updates, it's really just owning your content and owning what you're doing. And if you're passionate to it, you're consistent with it, that following is going to grow. It may not grow as swiftly as it did a couple of years ago, but it still grows. And you'll find that those people that are following you are going to be really true audiences that are going to shop from you and go to you for, you know, every stage of your life. And they kind of like grow up with you in a way. And so that's really the best way to look at it.
Yeah.
So we'll jump into another question. So this question says, you seem to have your spouse's support in this business. How much support do you have from your family?
Wow, that's a really good question. My family supports me so much. I'm very grateful for that. I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning, it took many years for them to like truly understand what I was doing, and especially like all my family's in Colombia. So in Colombia, like when I started blogging here, I mean, they had no idea what I was doing. It was just something like, what are you doing? Like, you're just taking photos of yourself? Like, I don't get it. You know, like it took many years to like, I'm not gonna say to like prove, you know, that what I was doing was right and it was a viable career, but because you know, I do things for myself and I keep repeating that every single day. You know, if there's someone I need to prove something to, it's myself. And then that support from other people, you know, will come along the way. Like that, you will start gaining that respect. But I will say that my husband is very supportive. He takes my photos, so he's very patient. He's been extremely patient with all the photo taking. And at the beginning, like I said, my mom and my stepdad helped me with photos. So I've been very lucky, you know, to have their support. So if you don't have it, just, you know, be very patient and just try to find that support with your friends or with other, you know, blogger friends or people who are doing what you're doing. When you find that, you know, community, you feel the support, you are like, you will feel so great because you're like, oh my gosh, you understand what I'm going through. You totally get it. So it's just great to look for that support outside of your family if you don't have it.
Yeah, my mom used to, or she still helps me take pictures, and then my fiance also takes pictures, so we switch off. And then when I first started, there was actually a time where my mom was in Honduras helping my sister. She had just had a baby. So I was taking my pictures by myself. I was just had a tripod and I was doing it by myself. So that's an option. Or like if you see any bloggers in your area, you can DM them and like, hey, can we have coffee and like take pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah, great point. That's a really great point. Relying on that community again, I think is so important because it's, you know, it takes a village truly when it comes to this business. So, but you can also do it yourself. Like you said, it just takes a tripod and a camera or your phone. And there are definitely ways to do it. And a lot of people find success just through the different methods of being able to do it. You find what works for you. If you're passionate about it, you're going to find a way to make it work. And I think that's important to remember.
It's also kind of a like lonely thing to do in a way, because I mean, you find like it's not lonely because you have your community and you love what you do. And like for me now I have my family's support, but I didn't have like my father's support in the beginning. He just thought I was like, oh, you're just taking photos of yourself all day. Like, did not understand it at all. He would call it my blogging club. So it was just really kind of lonely at first. None of my friends understood it. I have a lot of blogger friends now, influencer friends, now that I've been in this business for a while, but at first I really didn't. And so I was doing this all by myself. I'd have photographers or my husband help me, but I was doing everything else behind my closed doors basically, and I didn't have anyone to talk to about it or anybody to encourage me or be like, no, you're doing it right, like don't worry, keep going. And so it was a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of emotional, tearful nights like throughout these 10 years of just like, no, keep going, keep going, keep going. Who cares what people are saying? Like, just do it. You love it. So yeah, going back to what they're saying, it's super important to have friends in this community. Reach out to anybody via DMs, anybody in your city. Just find somebody that's also doing what you're doing. So if you have a family that maybe isn't supportive, you'll have other blogging friends that will be there with you to like just make you feel better.
Yeah, great point. And definitely, again, rely on that community. There are always people looking to do the same thing. Something else that we think, meeting up for coffee, which is a good idea. There's always other influencers that also need someone to take their photos, and it's just a fun way to meet people too. So it's a great point. Yeah. All right, so I'll answer one more question, and then we'll have to wrap things up. But this is a really good one that I think will be interesting to hear from you guys, and it's how do you get inspired for your content?
It's a really good question.
I think it depends on like right now, for instance, like pandemic. It was kind of like, well, how are you going to get inspired? My inspiration just came from like, what do people want? That was like my main inspiration. I'm like, people are going to be wanting to shoot at home. So I'm just going to lean into that, you know, how showing people how I shoot at home so that they can shoot at home too. So sometimes the inspiration comes from like a need, you know, something that I see that my community likes, or sometimes it'll come from something that I want to say. So if there's something that's on my mind and there's something that I want to teach, or there's a point that I want to get it through, and then I'm like, how can I convey it in a photo? Then that will happen. Other times it's straight up just like inspired by an outfit that I want to wear, and then I find a cute building that goes with it, and together I'm like, oh, it looks pretty. And I don't know, there's so many forms of inspiration, at least for me. Like I can get inspired by music, by movies, by other people's photos, by Pinterest, by but mostly it stems from what is the point I'm trying to get across, what am I talking about, and what is my purpose.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I will say that, like Francesca was saying, like all this time, that we've been at home so much and we've been going through so many things and emotions. Being creative has been like, I'm not gonna lie, a challenge. It's been, there has been many days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like doing anything. I'm just not inspired. Like, what should I do? And like Francesca said, like sometimes it comes from the need. So like with the Like to Know It app, I've been able to really find out, what people want to see, what people want. So I've been trying just to like focus on the things that are converting and what's selling, what's not. And based on that, I've been, ordering the products that I want to sell and that I want to promote. And that's been kind of like when it comes to that, it's been more about like being a strategic. But when it comes to, like my blog and, keep posting on Instagram, it's been more about, I've been having to go back to magazines, because magazines are a huge source of like inspiration for me. I love magazines. I have magazines all over my apartment. I have like stacks of magazines everywhere. And I just feel extremely inspired by, like those editorials and just really good photography. And I just, I created like mood boards and things that, something that I've been doing that has actually been working is I've been creating collage, and I try to like put them as the desktop image on my computer. So every time, like the first thing that I see in the morning is that, and it gives me so much inspiration, whether if it's just like denim outfits or casual wear or whatever it is, I try to create, like collage that are gonna keep me inspired. And I usually, find images from like Pinterest and just other Instagram accounts. So, and like I said before, taking the time to really think and helps me, feel inspired, because if I'm busy, and if I'm not, taking the time to like really sit down and think about the content, then how is that inspiration gonna come? We really have to just take those breaks and wind down and let the inspiration come to us.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I'm sorry, before I forget. I think it's also really important, going on what she's saying, to like when you're taking time for yourself so that those thoughts come, find something that is super, and I actually got this off of a Brené Brown podcast, and I've just applied it to my life. I love her. And it really is 100% true. You got to find a way to play. So find something that makes you feel like you're little again, makes you forget about time, makes you just feel really fulfilled. And you're not doing it to get paid. You're not doing it for any other reason. You're not doing it for followers. You're doing it, and you're not even doing it to get inspired. You're doing it because it makes you forget about time. For me, that's roller skating, and like sometimes just going to the beach and running in the water, and that just opens up your brain, just like Carolina was saying, and it gives you like that space. And before you know it, like the creative ideas just come flowing through.
Yeah, and then you're gonna just start having content to post, and that's what's gonna bring consistency. So like if we really think about everything is connected. Like if you're blocked and you're not inspired, like nothing's gonna flow. You're gonna need to take those breaks, like Francesca said, to just let things happen. Yeah,
I definitely get a lot of my inspiration from Pinterest, but a lot of the time I try to take myself out of the equation and kind of look at what my community is needing or wanting to see, let them inspire me on what I should be posting to serve them better.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's sort of like, it's whatever get those creative juices flowing, right? And and then sometimes your audience will sort of tell you what they're looking for, and you're able to do it from there. So these are all really, really great points. I feel like we just had like a therapy session too within some of this advice. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so, well, we're out of time, but thank you to everyone for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about Like to Know It and how you too can make influencing a viable career, visit rewardstyle.com/apply. and someone from the Like to Know It team will be in touch with you. Thank you again so much for joining us. We hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.